Carl, we got a little surprise for you after the Carl Banks Chronicles segment. We got one of your former teammates, Pepper Johnson.
What up,
Hey,
kid?
man, you look like you're 29 years old.
I'm working out, man.
Pepper, how are you, my man?
I'm good.
Hey, we just came off the Carl Banks segment of looking back at that 1990 season. Obviously, Carl got hurt during the year. Just talk about the way your group was able to kind of stay together, and you integrated a lot of new pieces with Everson Walls and Dave Dewerson and a whole bunch of other guys, but you played Giants football. What was that year like when you think back to 1990?
I can't remember anything. I'm just thinking about Carl right now. No, I love you guys. No, you know what? It was a wonderful year. It was a wonderful year. We started off great. Was just moving along. Had an undefeated season going on for 10 games. Then we hit a hurdle. We hit a couple of obstacles, and it just tested our fortitude. Like you said, with Carl breaking his wrist and playing in full arm cast and everything and still hitting everybody. That just showed you our attitude.
Pepper, Carl obviously was drafted a couple of years ahead of you. Talk a little bit about mentorship and you sort of paying it forward and why you and Carl were able to work together so well.
Carl snatched me up the very first time I came to Michigan State for a weekend visit. He snatched me up there. He snatched me up when I came to the Giants. The Parcells, after about a month of tour-days, he gave us the evening off. And everybody was going somewhere, either going to see their families, going out. And Carl walked by my room, and he hit brakes. He leaned back, and he was like, "What you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, man, I don't know, but I'm going somewhere. I'm getting out of these dorms." Carl was like, "Do you know your whole playbook?" I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Do you know what everybody else is supposed to be doing?" Immediately, I knew what he meant, that I had to stay in my book. So, yeah, that's my guy. That is that big brother that he choked me up when I needed to be choked up, and he pat me on my back when I needed some encouragement.
All right, so Carl, what about why was he the guy that you took under your wing?
Well, we're both Michigan guys, number one. Number two, the quiet little secret was his mother and his sister told me to make sure he was okay. That was part of it too. So, but we're, it's family, man. He was like the closest thing to a brother that you could play with because you knew his fight was my fight was his fight, and we took that attitude towards a whole team philosophy.
Carl, that summer, Carl had me come up to his house in Flint, and he told me he wanted me to work out with him a few days, right? I said, okay. I came up there, I'm thinking we get ready to run, jog up some hills, or, what did Carl got for me, right? He tossed me a helmet and some shoulder pads. And I was like, wait a minute, man, what are we doing? He said, we got to get ready. We actually ran with a helmet and shoulder pads on for a couple of days.
Pepper, obviously you were part of two Super Bowl champion teams with the Giants in '86 and then '90. Just talk about what you remember most about Bill Belichick's first meeting with you guys and how you guys were going to beat the Bills in Super Bowl 25.
Yeah, we were a good group. We were a close group, and that was a lot of football knowledge that Coach Belichick put out there on the field. So when Belichick wanted to change things up, it wasn't really hard for us because it was like, okay, Carl, you play behind the line and I play on the line. It wasn't really that hard. But when Bill tried to sell us that, we have to give up 100 yards to Thurman Thomas in order to win this game, we was like, man, quit playing around. But Bill broke it down to us that if you was the quarterback and you had an opportunity to be the MVP of the Super Bowl and Do you throw the ball to Thurman Thomas after he ran the ball? He ran for 100 yards, or do you throw the ball to Andre Reed after he have 100 yards catch? And he looks like a prophet because Jim Kelly took off running and Thurman Thomas was open over there by the sideline on that one scramble play, and they didn't get into field goal range.
Pep, we appreciate a couple minutes. Thanks for the surprise visit for our man,
Love you,
Carl
man.
here.
All right, guys. I'm glad you brought me out here.
Cincinnati has one of the game's top receivers, A.J. Green. Now, he's been injured the last couple of years, but he is still a force, and you're going to show some of the things that he does well.
Well, some of the things he does well is he is a great release guy. He's a physical guy, but also keep in mind, with all the injuries they have, he could be their most reliable receiver. And I just want to point out here the release of A.J. Green. If you're going to play him inside, you've got to be committed to it. If you play outside technique, commit to it. Don't give him a two-way go. Watch what happens here. He sticks, turns the corner around, back shoulder throw, completion.
Piece of cake. So he uses his physicality. He's wiry, but he's strong, isn't he?
He's wiry, he's strong, but he gives you movement. So you've got to be committed. And then again, here at the top of the screen, he's just going to work the zone here because he knows how to read defenses. Let's just take a look here. If this is not a reliable route runner there, just sits in the zone there. He runs the safety off there.
Carl, now let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and they do some things you really like, funnel coverage.
Yeah, I call it a funnel coverage, Bob, because what you're going to do is you're going to form a funnel here for your defense, and that means that whatever crossers come, you just pass it off, and then the tip of the funnel will be the guy that anything that comes vertical, and they can intersect it. Let's take a look. You'll see a lot of crossing routes, and I'll show you how the funnel is working. Freeze. So you got a guy coming here, he's going to take him. Guy coming there, he's going to take him. And then the tip of the funnel is free to intersect anywhere he wants. So this is your funnel right here. Now, as you play this out, you see that? The tip of the funnel can see everything. He breaks on the quarterback because everything, all the crossers were covered.
All right, that's something that the Giants and Daniel Jones are going to have to be very aware of. Now, what about their ability to get after the quarterback?
Well, again, a lot of teams now are using four-man rush because if your tackles can't hold up, they can put more guys in coverage, hence the funnel coverage that you just saw. But let's just take a look here. Their two defensive ends are just getting it done versus the tackles. Both guys just straight rush. Quarterback steps up in the pocket, they share a sack. So you've got to be stout in the middle, but on the outside, you got to get their defensive ends up the field.
The Giants take on the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a very talented rookie wide receiver the Giants have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. T. Higgins has been phenomenal. And really, when you look at all the receivers, they've done a really good job. Of course, the big blow with Joe Burrow going down. But T. Higgins, he's very physical. Boy, he looks a lot like Chad Johnson, a.k.a. Ocho Cinco, when he's out there. Does a really good job with his body, securing the football and protecting it from the defender.
No, I'm not sure if James Bradberry is going to follow him around the field, but they will get matched up over the course of the game, Sean. And to me, this is a great matchup for Bradberry. Both guys are big, they're physical. Higgins doesn't have that 4.4, 40-yard dash speed. This will be a physical battle between these two guys all game.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup because Higgins is a little bit of a long strider, somebody that Bradberry's gone against quite a bit with, guys like Mike Evans and Julio Jones. I think when you look at the matchup and the fact that he loves to get physical at the line of scrimmage, it could give T. Higgins fits getting off the ball. Now, the interesting thing will be, John, do they move him around a little bit? Do they try to get him away from James Bradberry? You look at the Bengals offense, they love to spread you out. They like to go a lot of five wide. You'll see a lot of different trips formations, and they love to move their receivers around to create different matchups.
Yeah, different guys will be in the slot. A.J. Green, obviously the name everybody knows, Carl Banks. We'll take a look at him later on in the show. But you also have Tyler Boyd, who works in the slot and outside. Sean, he's one of the best route runners in the NFL.
Yeah, he's actually their leading receiver, and he was Joe Burrow's favorite target they love to move Boyd around, but Boyd and Higgins are two totally different receivers. Boyd really loves the pivot routes. He likes being in the slot, working against that slot defender. So if that's Darnay Holmes, if that's Logan Ryan, or even maybe a linebacker, that could be a tough challenge. He's really shifty. He's got great acceleration. Exactly the opposite of T. Higgins, who is more of the outside guy and wants to get vertical and get down the field. So that'll be interesting when they break the huddle. All right, who's where? Be careful of the rub routes, along with some little bubble screens.
The big question is who's going to throw the ball to T. Higgins. Joe Burrow is out, and now you have Brandon Allen as the starter as opposed to Ryan Finley. Carl, backup quarterbacks over the years have had some success against the Giants. What do the Giants have to do early to make sure that Allen doesn't get into any kind of rhythm?
Well, it's to make him uncomfortable, and I think they're equipped with their front four to do just that. They've got to give him a lot of different looks, not go out of what their personality is, but to make sure he has to go to work and figure everything out.
My pick for this week's Above the Numbers, Kyler Fackrell. The reason why I say Kyler Fackrell is because this Cincinnati Bengals offensive line has given up 36 sacks on the season, 77 quarterback hits, and when you go back to last week when they replaced Joe Burrow with Finley, he gave up 4 sacks on 10 attempts. This is this Giants defense opportunity to wreak havoc into the backfield, shut down the run, and create those key takeaways we need.
Yeah, I think with the injury to Joe Burrow, that offense for Cincinnati is going to take a little bit of a step back, especially because in that offensive line, they were already handling some issues and trying to keep Joe Burrow upright. So I look for this defensive line and linebacker crew to really wreak havoc on that offensive line this week. And Kyler Fackrell's no difference, right? 3 sacks, forced fumble, intercept. He's a do-it-all kind of guy, and he's got to be a guy to play above the numbers in this week's game.
Who you got?
Okay, so my pick now, I'm going with my guy Slay.
Okay.
Obviously a little bit of a down year than what we're accustomed to him doing, from a year ago. But I think now is the time when he sees the team needs a push, when he sees this team needs to get over that hump to kind of make a playoff run. I think that's when the great ones kind of show up. And I'm looking for Darius Slayton to play above the numbers this week because when his number's called, he always steps up.
If this Giants team can get the run game going, we know when you can get those play action shots downfield to Slayton, that just opens up everything vertically in your game plan. And the player that we need to keep below the numbers, Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah, we all know with the injury to Joe Burrow, they're going to try and be a little bit more of a balanced offense, which means he's going to see a lot of different targets, a lot of different run plays. Let's not forget he can do things in the passing game as well. He's got around 42 catches, couple touchdowns there. So he's definitely someone that he's starred on the scouting report, right? Every time you're out on the field, got to know where he is, where he's lined up in the slot, in the backfield. But he's a guy that's dangerous. If he gets going, it could be a long day.
Which player would you like to see take on a larger role in this last half of the season?
I would hate to say it, but it'd have to be Mr. Evan Ingram. I'd like to see him get a little more consistent catching the ball. He could be a weapon out there and make a big difference. He's a matchup nightmare if he can be consistent catching the ball.
You know, I don't disagree with that one, but I'd love to see Sterling Shepard get more involved because he missed some games, and him on the field just brings a different level of energy to the receiving corps.
Logan Ryan is one of several Giants players who's playing at that Pro Bowl level this year.
Yeah, well deserved. All these guys have been balling. That entire defense has just been playing top-notch football, keeping them in the ball games. And Logan Ryan and Bradbury at the top of that list in terms of Pro Bowl concerned. So I think they should have a great shot.
And we can't forget Giants kicker Graham Gano, too. He has been on the money. He deserves that Pro Bowl nod.
Keep it going, Graham.
As well.
This is a team that lost Joe Burrow last week against Washington, an emotional blow with that injury. How much can you learn from that particular game film when it's obvious they were dramatically impacted by the injury to their quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, first, heart goes out to Joe Burrow with that injury. It's tough to see anyone go down like that and really feel for him. I'm sure he'll, come back strong and look forward to watching him. But you can see the scheme and, the game plan and on defense, how they were, playing and take something from that. But, we go back, several games, early on into the season to see who they really are, see who they want to be and kind of how they vary game to game.
Now, Bates and Bell, their two safeties, by most estimates, are the strength of their defense. When you go up against a defense that characteristically has very strong safeties, what is the generic approach?
Yeah, those are two good players, like you said, and they're a good group on defense. So, Bell's the guy who's down around the line of scrimmage more and pressuring. So, just being aware of that, seeing him, pre-snap and understanding that. And then, Bates does a good job, seeing the quarterback, reading the quarterback. So, those will be, key points for us this week.
They're not known to have a very painful pass rush, but Carl Lawson is second in the league in quarterback hits. How disruptive is he? How much do you have to be aware of him coming off of the end?
Yeah, he's a good player, and they've got good players up front, and the ability to rush the passer and move the passer off his spot, and like you said, Lawson plays a big part of that. So we'll be ready for it. We'll study it this week and have a plan going into Sunday.